Are you like so many other people looking to downsize your home or the mortgage of your house, considering the Niagara region to do just that? Thinking of maybe moving into St. Catharines or specifically maybe today in the neighborhood of Glenridge? Well, you're in luck because that's what today's video is all about. We are going to give you the pros and cons, the best and the worst of living in the neighborhood of Glenridge here in St. Catharines in the Niagara region. And pro number 5 is a very unique opportunity for those who live in the Glenridge area that a lot of people are taking advantage of to give them a great opportunity to fulfill their dreams and aspirations, especially for those who are looking at retiring or pre-retired. So you're not going to want to miss pro number 5. And if you stick around to the very end of today's video, we are going to share with you the real estate aspect of buying a home here in the Niagara region, specifically in Glenridge. And you can decide whether it is a pro or a con. If this is the first time that you have been in our video, thank you so much for stopping by. And if you would like to hit that like button, subscribe, and even turn on your notifications so that you will never miss a video coming out from us about the Niagara region. We are all about sharing all the good and the bad of living in this wonderful area, where to go to do things, to shop, get entertainment, and of course, everything about real estate. I'm Scott White, and along with my wife Ellen, we make up the realtors of the Living in Niagara, Ontario with Ellen and Scott team. We get calls from people just like you all the time, inquiring and learning about moving here to the Niagara region. If that happens to be you, please do not hesitate to give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or even better yet, hit that QR code and set up a Zoom meeting where we can meet face to face. You can ask us whatever question you want, and we will ask you a whole bunch of questions as well to really understand exactly what you're looking for. Because no one knows the Niagara region better than Ellen and myself. Born and raised here, my family have been part of the Niagara region since its beginning. And we have helped people just like you, numerous of them, move here and find that exact place that they're looking for, whether it's closer to vineyards, close to trails, into the city where they can have some of the nightlife and excitement, out in the country, wherever it is, what you're looking for, we can find it here in the Niagara region and help you stay away from the areas you may want to not visit so often. So with no further ado, let's jump right into the very first pro of living in Glenridge. Glenridge is in the south part of St. Catharines. It is bordered by the Highway 406, a 12-mile creek on the west side of it, and on the south is just past Brock University, which is one of the pros of living here in Glenridge, is the close proximity that you are to the natural trails for walking, for biking, even for cross-country skiing or other activities like that. If you like nature, if you like hiking, if you want to get your 10,000 steps in a day, no problem. You'll be able to get that very easily if you live here in the Glenridge area. Glenridge, as I said, is bordered on the west side by 12-mile Creek. And 12-mile Creek has a stretch of trails on both sides of the creek that can give you beautiful walks along that creek, wooded areas right in the heart of the city. There's also trails to the south end that can take you up and along the escarpment, up to Brock University, and up into some trails on the upper side of the area of St. Catharines. Pro number 2 would be the community itself. It is a mature, well-established community. It has canopies of trees, and the people are special. They have a really strong community sense. Great public schools, a fantastic high school. There is a real vibe of connectedness and community as you move around and travel within Glenridge area. It encompasses a bunch of what I would call micro communities, micro neighborhoods, like Riverside and Old Glenridge. You have Glendale, you have up by Brock University, you have Wakeel. There's a number of different micro communities all within Glenridge, and each one has its own community sense, its own attributes and qualities and specialness about it. And that's what I was talking about in the very beginning. If you're looking at moving into this area, we know all these micro neighborhoods as well. And we can pinpoint the exact neighborhood that meets exactly what you're looking for. That's why we really encourage you to reach out to us to help you find those nuggets of gold that are plentiful in the Niagara region to meet exactly what you're looking for. But that whole sense of community, that whole sense of connectedness is well worth the consideration for Glenridge area here in St. Catharines. Which brings me to pro number 3, and that I've already mentioned it kind of, that's the schools. Great quality schools who have a great reputation of community involvement and connection, working with the parents and the communities to help educate the children. A public school and a Catholic school, and the high school is fabulous, rating well into the 8 or over 8 in the area of vibes here in Glenridge. There are 2 other schools. Ridley College, I mentioned that in our map tour of Glenridge. It's not technically in Glenridge, but it's not far away, and that is a private upscale school. Goes from JK all the way through high school to grade 12. Well established back in the 1800s, I believe it was started, and it brings students from all over the world, including those in St. Catharines. And if you're looking for some fantastic schools, Glenridge or neighboring area would be something you want to look for. And if you can afford to put them into Ridley College, it is top-notch, world-renowned school, taking, as I said, all the way from JK all the way through high school to grade 12. Then, of course, we have Brock University. That is on the southern end of Glenridge, up on the what we call the mountain, the escarpment. I know if you're coming from mountainous areas like in Vancouver or even down in the Appalachians, Mount Everest, wherever you're coming from, the Niagara Escarpment isn't a mountain, but for those locals, we call it a mountain. Forgive me for those of you who live really near or around mountains. But Brock University is on the top of the escarpment, and it is, again, a renowned, well-established university. Has over 130 courses, I think over 70 postgraduate and 30 graduate level classes and courses. It has a great impact on St. Catharines itself. It gets involved with the arts community at the First Ontario Arts Centre. They work together with themselves to bring great art, drama, etc. to the inhabitants of St. Catharines, and giving their students opportunities to use what they're learning there as well. So Brock University is also in the Glenridge area, and those are some of the schools that we have, all the way from JK all the way up to postgraduate schools. And Niagara College actually has a campus right in the Penn Center that offers some courses and students as well. So a community college and everything right here in Glenridge. Pro number 4 is Glenridge is within the city of St. Catharines. You are in close proximity of shopping. The Penn Center, the largest shopping mall in the Niagara region, is right here in Glenridge neighborhood. That's where we do our major mall shopping. But as a kid, I remember going to the Penn Center to do our Christmas shopping. I have one sister, so there's only 2 children, and we would go to the Penn Center. One of us would go with their mother, the other one would go with the father, and we would shop for each other. We'd do that for an hour or so, and then we would hide the presents that we bought in the car, and then we would switch parents. My sister would go in with my dad, and I would go with my mother, and we would buy for our other parents or finish up buying presents for the other person, hiding in the mall so that we didn't see each other. One of the highlights of the traditions of my life growing up, I tried passing it on to my kids, although we weren't always in this area. We went to different malls, but the Penn Center is that memory for me. And it's right here in Glenridge. There's The Landmark Cinema is in the Penn Center, so that type of movies is right close by here in Glenridge. And then there's downtown. You're just over the 406 and you're into the downtown area of St. Catharines. There's beyond that, 15 minutes through the city, you can get to the box stores of Costco, Home Depot, Walmart, or you can go over to the borderline of St. Catharines and Niagara on the Lake and go into the largest and most prestigious outlet mall here in the Niagara region. So all the shopping that you need is close by. A lot of people in the Glenridge area can walk to the grocery store and other stores. There is some public transportation through buses, etc., right close by everywhere in the Glenridge area as well, going up the escarpment, of course, going to Brock University. So the close proximity to the entertainment, to restaurants and shopping is really close for those of you who live in the Glenridge area. A great pro if that's what you're looking for. Pro number 5, that's a pro I said you're not going to want to miss, because it is a very unique aspect that Glenridge offers because of Brock University. There's a lot of people who buy their homes here in Glenridge, and then they will partner with Brock University and rent out a room or two or the entire basement to Brock University students, augmenting their income, giving them free money to play with, whether that's to travel or buy a pool or pay down more debt. There's a lot of people who do that and helping out students. We have done that living in Welland. We have a student living with us from Niagara College, and let me tell you, the stories that I've heard from other people who've done that, on the most part, have been very positive. Sometimes you may have a little bit of issue with a student, but on the most part, the school works really close with the house parents and the students. Any conflicts, they resolve it. So we have friends who have been doing this for 20, 30 years. And just talking to one the other Sunday, and she was telling me that they did it for over 20 years and had countless students. She couldn't even remember how many students they had. Some of them they became really close friends with. They continue to have correspondence with and have visits with them, and have actually gone to visit them in other parts of the world. One friend of ours actually had an invitation to come and visit the student and her family in Japan because they took such great care of this student when they were living here. And as I was saying, that the one person I was talking to on Sunday, having over 20 students, she said, I think there's only one, maybe two students where they had some difficulty and challenge, but over 20 years, only 1 or 2 students. That's a pretty good deal. So that's a great way of bringing extra income into your home, or even investing, buying a house and turning it into student housing is another great opportunity here in the Glenridge, which I consider to be a positive. However, now if we switch gears a bit and talk about the con, student housing can also be a con, because depending on where you're living, if you don't want to rent out space to a student, some of the areas can be kind of boisterous and loud when you have a number of students living in and around you. So you want to be careful in those areas. If you want to have that peace and quiet that most Glenridge will offer you, and you don't want to have that rambunctious, noisy new college students in their early 20s, etc., there are some areas you're going to want to stay away from in the Glenridge area. And so that can be a con if you find yourself in that area without knowledge or without knowing that. So it's not that big of a con, I don't think, because we just stay away from those areas. And as I said, Ellen and I know this area. We can help making sure that you stay away from those areas if you want to. But if you want to have an investment, maybe you want to move into that area. But that could be a con for some people. Con number 2, again, is specific in different areas of Glenridge, and that's the traffic. If you're going down Glendale Road, close to the Penn Center, it can get busy, especially this time of year around the Christmas season. That's where everybody from almost it feels like from the Niagara region are coming in to go shopping at the Penn Center. And traffic can get really busy along Glenridge, the 406, right there at the Penn Center. It can get busy on the north end around the 406 as well. So you can get into some heavier traffic. Nothing like you're going to get in downtown GTA or Toronto, mind you. But for those of us who live in the Niagara region, it's busy traffic. So that busyness, a lot of people, traffic can be a con depending on where you're living in the Glenridge area. But as I said before, if you know the area well enough, you know where to stay away from those areas, that wouldn't be much of an issue. And that's mostly with all of these cons. It all depends where you're living in Glenridge, if this is really a con. All of the cons, because personally, it's really hard to find cons for the Glenridge area. As I was making out my list, trying to figure out pros and cons, I had to stop and think, okay, I feel like I'm just kind of grasping at straws for cons for this area. Just because I'm making a pro and con video, I've got to find some cons. But all the cons are unique to some of the micro communities within Glenridge, except for con number 3. Con number 3 is, for those of you who do not live in Canada right now, we get a lot of inquiries and people will help move from the GTA into the Niagara region, and they understand winters in Canada. We also get a number of people coming outside of Canada moving into the Niagara region, and they're inquiring us, asking us what it is like in the Niagara region. We get a lot of people coming from warmer climates, and if you're moving to Canada, you're going to have to experience winter. That means snow, it means ice, it means sometimes well below 0 degrees Celsius temperatures. So Niagara region is not excluded. We are going to get snow here in the Niagara region, and you may need to get a snowblower depending on how big your driveway is. We do have a snowblower, and let me tell you, I used it 3, maybe 4 times last year. The rest of the time, it was easy shoveling. Some people will blow it out right away, but I use my snowblower only when it's really kind of 2 or 3 centimeters of snow. And I have no expectation that it's going to melt tomorrow. We just had some snowfall last week, accumulated amount of snow, but I knew that warmer temperatures were going to come, it's going to rain, that snow was going to melt, so I didn't even bother bringing my snowblower out. So even though we can get snow in the Niagara region, we do not get as much snow in the Niagara region as many other parts of Canada, even Ontario, get. And the nice thing about the Glenridge area, even though I'm sharing this as a con, because if you do not like the snow, you don't want the cold temperatures, you may want to steer away from this area, but Glenridge is right on the base of the Niagara Escarpment. What does that mean? That means it has its own kind of weather patterns. I know it's not a huge mountain, but because it is at a higher elevation, the winds and the snow can oftentimes blow over the Glenridge area. So Glenridge can get less snow than other parts of St. Catharines. So if snow is not something that you really want to contend with, you want to have the least amount of snow that you could possibly have, yet still live in the beautiful country of Canada and the Niagara region especially, Glenridge is definitely a place that you want to check out. But I had to add it as a con because we do get snow. And as I told you, I was grasping at straws trying to find and discover what cons I can share about Glenridge. And that pretty much sums up the cons. I couldn't think of any other con. Now, if you live in the Glenridge area, if you visited here, or if you know of any other cons, even some more pros, please, we love to hear from you in those comments, to share your personal experience in Glenridge, whether you visited here or whether what you may have heard about it. Love to hear from you. Love for you to send that in as a comment. So that sums up our pros and cons of living in Glenridge, except for real estate. I told you at the beginning of today's video that I was going to share with you the real estate aspect of Glenridge, and then you can decide whether it is a pro or a con. Glenridge has a vast array of different housing availability. You can get condos under $300,000. Right now, as I'm making this video, I know of one condo, about $294,000. Asking price, it is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. It's about 1,000 square feet, clean, beautiful, modern condo for $294,000, I think it was. 12 to 15 condos under $500,000. And then you can get some luxury condos into the 1,400, 2,000 square foot range. Beautiful condos in over $1 million, even $1.3 million here in Glenridge. But there's more than just condos. There's also houses. We have a number of houses. The cheapest house that I can find right now in Glenridge is $500,000. That's the asking price. It too is about 1,080 square feet, a 2-bedroom with 2 bathrooms. It's on almost an acre of land, which is one of the beautiful things that you can get here in the Niagara region is property, land, acreage for inexpensive, even affordable amounts, especially if you compare it to the GTA area. There's one house, the most expensive house on the market right now is $3,500,000, I believe it is, a luxury 5-bedroom home right along the 12-mile creek, almost 2 acres of property, over 4,000 square feet of living space. The average house price here in Glenridge currently right now is about $836,000. There are a number of houses under $800,000 in Glenridge. So in my opinion, Glenridge is affordable. It is one of the more expensive areas in the Niagara region, but with 12-Mile Creek, you have a golf course on the north end, St. Catharines Golf Course, Niagara Escarpment on the south end. It is a beautiful place to live, peaceful, quiet community, well established. I consider it to be affordable, and you have a vast array of options to choose from. So I personally think it's a pro, but you decide. Is housing pro or a con? Love to hear your comments. So that's it. That's the pros and cons of living in Glenridge here in St. Catharines in the Niagara region. Sure hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button, subscribe, even turn on the notifications so that you may be one of the very first people to hear of anything happening here in the Niagara region, as I've already said. And if you are thinking of making this move in 9 days or 9 months, please do not hesitate to reach out and give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, hit that QR code and set up a Zoom meeting where Ellen and I can meet with you face to face, and I promise you, we will help you make this transition smooth and stress-free. Thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.